Hi guys, gals and non-binary pals. Damn, I'm late again. Sorry about that. Today we'll be looking at IMBIBITOR LUNAE, Danheng of the past, future and present. It's roughly day 2 since the patch went down and I'm loving the new resin upgrades, I must say. So without further ado, let's have a look at our lovely destruction dragon IMBIBITOR LUNAE. Ayal Danheng is an imaginary character, but his damage is anything but imaginary, boasting arguably the strongest day 1 damage out of all the characters available so far in standard and limited, and unique gameplay. We will now have an interesting solution to the drought of imaginary DPS characters available in our roster. Let's begin. IMBIBITOR LUNAE's skill priority can be rearranged. His NA is definitely the priority, but his other skills only serve to buff his normal attack. Next would be his ultimate or talent. Personally, I feel like this is interchangeable, but I would set the talent as the priority for myself. However, some people have said that the ultimate having increased damage is much better. It's depending to you, because eventually you're going to max both. I don't think there's a rush to pick either one, and you can slowly invest. And at the last slot, we have the skill, which is the lowest priority among the traces, as its effects are not as bombastic as his other skills. On to Relics. This also has a lot of argument, but it's honestly up to your style of play and available best relics, so don't fret too much. We will begin with the most versatile set in my honest opinion, 2-piece Musketeer and 2-piece Wastelander, which I feel is the most idyllic stat to obtain, as it takes a lot of pressure off power farming for relics. Sure, you lose out on the 4-piece of each set, but you gain a more consistent buff across the board. But of course, the other two suggested are the 4 pieces of the current broken set. The reason why I don't put Musketeer or Wastelander as the priority set is simply because you might not have constant debuffs on enemies, which is needed for Wastelander. And for Musketeer, sometimes Danheng doesn't need speed priority as much, and speed tuning is actually very important for his teams, so you might want to be a little bit more controlled with your speed distribution. For the stat distribution, sure, I would prefer crit damage. However, if you have crit rate, that simply will not affect as much, so don't need to worry about that. Just make sure that you balance your stats. For boots, speed or attack depending on what you need and your tuning. And for the planar spear, you're going to need imaginary %, and for the rope you can use attack percentage, but some people have found success with energy recharge as it takes the pressure off skill points. For planar spears, Rutilant Arena would be the best in slot as it affects normal attack damage, second being Space Sailing Station for flat attack buffs, and for me, third would be Sprightly Wand Whack, with energy regeneration actually helping a lot with getting his SP consumption under control, and the action forward gets him on a roll real quick, especially in Memory of Chaos. For materials, you will need Suppressing Edict, amounting to 65 drops in total, 8 tracks of Destiny, 12 drops of Phantalia, and drops from the Destruction Calyx amounting to 18 greens, 69 blues, 139 purples. For stats, crit is the most ideal, followed by attack, speed, and break percentage. In a short summary, stack crit, attack, and Bob's your uncle, you have a killer dragon on your team. It's refreshing to see such a straightforward character after having the insane calculations on all the previous characters that came out, and I must say he definitely will be a mainstay and a core unit. I would be surprised if he doesn't take the DPS ladder by storm, especially with his flexibility to be inserted into many teams. But maybe Blady might still be top dog, only time will tell. He seems to be similar to Jingyuan, being a very greedy character who needs buffs and skill points focused on him, which is quite lore accurate because they are good friends formally, but definitely a refreshing style of play. Having needing to think and put your big brain time on overclock to micromanage SP with him. Let's move on. It's time for Lightcones. So as with all characters, we definitely need to have a look at the signature first. So Brighter Than the Sun. It not only gives a disgusting 18% crit rate, which will help you reach that Rutilant Arena minimum bar for activation, but also provides 36% attack and 12% energy recharge, helping your skill point production with the Dragon Core passive. However, you do need to stack this. This not only provides insane leisure for your artifacts to be slightly underwhelming, but also provides a lot of utility, which really helps in Dan Heng setting off the stage and dealing as much damage as possible. Personally, I feel there is only one suitable replacement to this, and that would be this Lightcone under the blue sky. So this, I would say, is the closest one-to-one representation and replacement for Brighter Than the Sun. So it is a 4-star Lightcone that gives you 16% attack, and upon defeating an enemy gives you 12% crit rate that lasts for 3 turns. And this can be superimposed if you are lucky enough. So this really helps Dan Heng in the stat balancing section, but it's a more indirect way, where you have a little bit of a condition before activating the crit rate buff. However, this might not be as useful as in Memory of Chaos, especially in the higher floors. You will have much tougher opponents, and to trigger this passive might actually be pretty difficult. But once you do, at least you have it for a consistent amount of time. But if you don't happen to have Under the Blue Sky, I can give you an alternative, a Secret Vow. So next we have the 3-star alternative. So most of us started with this Lightcone with Destruction MC, which is Collapsing Sky. So it provides 20% normal attack and skill damage, while the latter being slightly negligible because Dan Heng's skill doesn't do anything except alternate. His normal attack buff is pretty good. The Lightcone is also super easy to superimpose, and at S5 it doubles the effect, reaching a whopping 40%. However, the base stats and overall usability of this Lightcone is not ideal. Therefore, I would only recommend this to new players or people who don't have any of the former mentioned Lightcones. And before we move on, I would just like to say, if you made it to this section, please drop a like and subscribe. I genuinely appreciate it. You guys mean the world to me. Next, we're going to have a look at his skills. So let's go through it one by one. So his technique. He enters a leaping dragon state, dashing a short distance and dealing damage and blocking projectiles? What? The dash also deals damage, 120% of IL Dan Heng's attack as imaginary damage. And you gain 1 stack of his ultimate passive, Squama Sacrosancta. Pretty insane for a technique if you ask me. Next is talents. Gain a passive, Righteous Heart, which increase IMBIBITOR LUNAE's damage by 10%, stacking up to 6 times. So that equals 60% more damage. Do note that this is at max level, so that's why I'm urging you to push the talents first. So to trigger this passive, it depends on how many hits Dan Heng attacks deal. So basically, the moment you use Fulgurant Leap, you're gonna get insane amounts of damage on your next attack, and this effect lasts to the end of his turn. Next is his normal attack. So this is basically his bread and butter skill in his kit, the main damage source. So it has 4 forms. In this base form is Beneficent Lotus, but we're not going to look at that. We're going to be looking at the alternate forms. Transcendence, a 3-hit attack dealing 260% of Dan Heng's attack as imaginary damage to a single target. Divine Spear, which deals 5 hits amounting to 380% of Dan Heng's attack to a single enemy, and with the 4th hit onward deals 60% attack to adjacent targets. And the disgusting Fulgurant Leap, which is a 7-hit attack dealing 500% of Dan Heng's attack as imaginary damage to one enemy, and from the 4th hit onward deal 180% of Dan Heng's attack to adjacent enemies. Simply amazing. However, to cycle between the damage form, you would need to consume skill points or Squama stacks. So be sure to manage your points wisely. The cost is 1 SP, 2 SP and 3 SP respectively for each form change. Next would be Dan Heng's skill, Dracor Libre, used to toggle the forms of normal attack. On top of that, when using Divine Spear or Fulgurant Leap, Starting from the 4th hit, generate 1 stack of Outroar per hit, which increases Imbibitor LUNAE's crit damage by 12%, maxing at 4 stacks. These stacks last to the end of his turn. Pretty disgusting, I must say, especially if you have action forward characters like Asta to boost his speed non-stop after self-buffing. Last but not least is his ult, Azure Aqua Ablutes ult. My goodness, that's a mouthful. Quadra A. A 3-hit attack dealing 300% of Imbibitor LUNAE's attack to a single enemy and 140% to adjacent targets. This skill grants 2 stacks of Squama's Sacrosanta up to a max of 3 stacks. You would definitely need his ult charge up to save on SP cost. Let's use our fellow destruction character Ting Yun for this. Now comes my favorite section, Eidolons, because I can never experience them. E1 Righteous Heart has a max stack of 10 and stacks faster, granting an additional stack per hit. But I would say his greatest gain would be his E2. After launching an ult, advance forward 100% and gain 1 stack of Squama Sacrosanta. So basically you get 3 stacks immediately after an ult and you get a speed up. Basically this would be his most disgusting Eidolon for a cheaper side investment. For E3, Imbibitor LUNAE's skill and basic attack raised by 2 and 1 level respectively, maxing at 15 and 10 respectively. This would be where I would personally stop if I was a medium spender. But let's say if you have the wallet to support it, let's go to E4. Outroar buff extends to the end of the following term, so basically you have extra crit damage for an extra turn. Next would be ultimate and talent levels +2, maxing at 15 for E5. And last but not least is E6. When an ally ults, Imbibitor LUNAE gains rest penetration. This is imaginary rest penetration for 20% and it stacks 3 times. That is a very disgusting E6. Now last but not least, of course, we have to talk about team compositions. So these are 100% theory crafted teams, as I cannot afford to get Danheng because I need to feed myself because I'm poor as shit. So let me know if the team works out or not. Of course, this is a learning process, so of course if you guys test it out and you feel like the teams aren't good, let me know. So first is Mono Imaginary. Theoretically, you only need Wukong's skill over here besides Imbibitor LUNAE. And I think this is a very fun team, especially if you have the Wastelander set, because you have Mr. Walt Yang over here to basically constantly debuff the enemies. On occasion, you might want to use Welt's skill, but mostly you're going to be using his normal attack and you're going to run his ultimate. And Locha is just there for emergency healing and doing Locha things. It's a pretty good team to use, mostly because it's fun, or at least this is a team that I would want to play if I had Imbibitor LUNAE. Next would be the standard All Earn, with Ting Yun granting buffs and ults for Squama stacks and Bella debuffing enemy defenses. This allows Danheng to truly go all out and focus on dealing disgusting damage to enemies. Next, we have the Weakness Converter, using Silver Wolf as an imaginary weakness applicator to make Danheng hit like a truck. However, this team is very SP heavy, so I'll use an ER rope for Danheng in this case to take the stress off SP management. And last but not least is Defense of the Danheng, DOTD. Providing a basic shield which can be replaced with Jeopard, but honestly I prefer MC over here, simply because that the shield application is free. You don't need to wait for an ultimate. So we have Ting Yun for buffing, we have Locha for healing, and of course Imbibitor LUNAE. So this really is a good team from probably Memory of Chaos 10, where you kinda have Ting Yun dying a little bit too often, or you might see Danheng getting into a little bit of trouble. So you can use MC for taunt if you have extra stacks. If not, you always have a consistent shield to protect your team. I hope you enjoyed the video, everyone. Honestly, I am really sorry I'm late. I've been going through a lot at work. There's a lot of new changes and I barely managed to pull out this video. I think you can hear from the video that sometimes my voice might crack because I'm actually filming this after getting back home from work. So I know it might not be the most in-depth guide, but I'm just here to serve a quick and simple guide to anyone wanting to build Danheng, and I hope that this guide has found you well. Take care and don't forget to sub and like. I really genuinely appreciate the time you spend to watch my videos. I do take a bit of time to make them, but of course any opinions to improve is much appreciated. Peace.